Is there a famous football quote I could go with that says it's really, really nearly over, finished, and it kind of is now? I don't know. See if we can come up with one during the show. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Well, Dave, I was pretty happy in midweek after Bournemouth, but yeah, we've talked a lot on the podcast this year. I think that's it, isn't it now, mate?
I think that is it. I think you'd probably describe after the Bournemouth game yesterday as the must-wins of all must-win games, and sadly we didn't. Yeah, I think that is it. I think we all pretty much thought it was after the maybe not, but after the Southampton defeat, that was a real low blow, wasn't it? That one, and I think we just haven't recovered, have we? A Bournemouth result apart, and yesterday was just a lot of the games this season, a lot of the home games, just more of the same, really.
Yeah, Joe is kind of symbolic in many ways, as we'll get to, but kind of final nail in final coffin and final bit of dust thrown over final coffin. Yeah.
Yeah, and even Kieran McKenna said as much in the post-match. There wasn't the whole, there's still points to play for, we can still do this. It was very much, we think we can win some games and we think we can get a good chunk of the points we need to, but we don't think that Wolves won't get any points. So, yeah, it's pretty much done as we are. And, yeah, that's all she wrote, really, wasn't it, yesterday? And I think, I said to the guys before the game I was chatting to, and I said it felt like when Wolves won on Tuesday, we could go out to the Bournemouth game with no pressure on us and play that, get the win. But it felt like there was even though I did think we were down, there was still a tiny bit of pressure put back to us yesterday, and we just haven't really coped when we've needed to with any pressure at any point all season. When we've needed to go and win a game, which we haven't been able to do it.
Well, and Dave, it's the home. I've just isolated the home table as well. 1 win in 16, 11 defeats. So I would add to what Joe said. Yeah, pressure. We haven't been able to cope, and just haven't been able to cope at home, have we?
Which is a surprise, really, because everyone's been up for it. It's been pretty much 30,000 there every home game, every league home game, cup game as well, pretty much. And yeah, we just haven't. Every Chelsea aside, we really just haven't. Early season, some good performances which we could have got us wins. The Villa and Fulham spring to mind. But we've just been short. And yesterday was an absolute case in point. We'll get to it, but. Second half, they meant business second half, and we just couldn't cope.
No, absolutely not. And welcome everybody to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. A huge thank you to all the people I can see popping up in the comments. You're here through thick and through thin on a pretty decisive weekend in the kind of battle for survival, which, a 12-point gap put in by Wolves. Get your views in via the comments. Still plenty to talk about, plenty to debate, plenty to discuss. Dave and Joe going to go through the game. We'll have a little look at what else went on in the Premier League, including it could actually be worse. Southampton relegated today, April the 6th. By God, imagine that. Usual places, and we thank you as well if you're listening on audio. 5-star review, thumbs up, all of that good stuff. Like the video if you're in here right now. And we will go to Ipswich Town v Wolverhampton Wanderers. Here is your team. We'll go with you, Joe. Unchanged, I think, isn't it? Palmer in goal. Townsend, Tuanzebe. O'Shea, Burgess. Morsey, Caust. Johnson, Enciso, Broadhead, and Delap. Your thoughts, Joe?
I think we've all expected a couple of changes, but probably people want to see the same team after winning a game. And I guess the problems with keeping the same team showed themselves probably for about an hour on the game. I know it's sort of sounds like you're making excuses, but when Wolves had a home game on Tuesday and would have been sleeping in their own beds Tuesday night ahead of coming into the training ground Wednesday, we were playing away at Bournemouth on Wednesday night, travelling back overnight, no doubt, on the Thursday. And then that's the whole week effectively gone, isn't it, of training. So you ended up there, and Axel Tuanzebe played his first game for a long time. Jenski just very rarely gets through 290 minutes, gets through 190 minutes, let alone 2 in 4 days. And when we sort of looked like we needed to make some subs in the second half, you had 2 that you just sort of had to get off, really. So we really did limit ourselves by keeping the same team, but I think it was the right decision to keep the same team.
What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Obviously, I suppose the one was Davis was back and on the bench, whether he's fully fit to play in 90 minutes. Obviously, Hutchinson was still out. Probably you would have thought that a fully fit Hutchinson may have come straight back in, but no. Other than that, I don't think. I think Townsend, certainly looked like he did himself proud the other night, and as expected, really.
On the bench here, Clark, Phillips, Wolfen and Walton, Philogene, Hurst, Chaplin, Davis and Taylor. Dave, here is the Wolves team that, despite being bloody terrible for most of the season, are on rather good form at the moment as we meet them. We have Sarr, Doherty, Agbadou, Gomez, number 1, Ait Nouri, Semedo, Gomez, number 2, Andre, Bellegarde, Munetsi and Strand Larson. So we didn't have to face the guy we were really worried about, Dave, but it's some very good players and lots of great chat, Dave. I'll do a plug for our Telegram group on, the nature of teams in the middle of the Premier League buying up the best players from, say, B nations. And that's where the Premier League is at the moment. You can get the best players from, quote, lesser nations. And Dave, they're really good, some of these players.
Yeah, I mean, it really showed right through the game. I mean, that João Gomez is some player, and Andre alongside him. We said pre-pod we were talking. It's not until you sort of take a look back and realise, hang on, they're Brazil's 2 central midfielders right there. I mean, it just put it in perspective. The other Brazilian, who would have played, obviously suspended. But I mean, look at their form without Cunha. I mean, it's really pretty good. So he's back. Obviously, he's eligible after this week. That was his extended game, wasn't it? But yeah, just solid. I tell you who did impress me, who surprised me. That Strand Larsen's a player. He's got a bit of bam. I always thought he had that bit of a donkey's not the right car, or I don't know. He looked a bit clumsy. No, you know what I mean. He looked that sort of clumsy type, but boy, yeah, he's got a touch. He can really play. And experience through the side. That Nouri is a player as well. Bloody yeah, what a player he is too. So good, just outfit. Following on from yesterday, I expect them to continue in that way and maybe finish above West Ham and a couple more teams. That wouldn't surprise me.
Well, Joe, you said on the pod a few months back, and I hoped at the time you were just grandstanding and just, being a YouTuber, but you said, oh, they're a mid-table side. They're just having a horrible start. Would you like to say you told me so?
No, because it doesn't really help anything. But like I say, you look at the last international break, Brazil played Argentina in the World Cup qualifiers. Cunha, Gomez and Andre, all played for Brazil in that game against Argentina last week. So, like I say, this isn't someone who's got a few cats for Brazil because they're trying to get a transfer move or their agent's got them in the team or something like that. These are the guys playing in their biggest games against Argentina at the moment. And like you say, with Ait Nouri as well. So Ait Nouri, Gomez and Andre, they're Champions League players, aren't they? They're
quality.
If they were in the Barcelona or the Bayern Munich or the Juventus team, that's their sort of level. But because I don't know if this is still to do with their relationship with George Mendes, bringing in the sort of Brazilian and Portuguese players as well, whether it's something to do with that. But there just isn't. I say we looked at the table since Vitor Pereira has been appointed. And he's been there 15 games. They came in, Gary O'Neill was sacked after they beat us. Oh, yeah, just like that, it comes up there. 15 games, 7 wins, 23 points across 15 games. And the 2 teams, outside the bottom 3, the 2 teams there are Spurs and Man United, who are just on awful runs of form. But there isn't really a 17th best team in this league. You've got the bottom 3, and then above that, you've probably got 8, 9, 10 teams of a very, very similar level who all can beat everyone, who all have fantastic players, who all have packed full of internationals and quality. And that's the level we've got to try and attain. And like I say, how do you compete when you've got Sam Morsey, Jens Karius? That's your midfield. Yeah, one's been a fantastic player for us for a long time, but is 34 years old. The other's on loan from Sweden. sort of has his injuries issues. Done really well, and you're up against sort of Brazil's 2 starting central midfielders, and this is a team that's 1 place above you in the league. What can you do? I know it's a bit
levels.
It feels
And
a bit
Dave,
desperate, but it is levels, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dave, these agents, they used to say to these players who wanted to get to Europe and to get to their Champions League, okay, you might have to go via a top 6 side in Spain or Portugal or Turkey to find your way to, I don't know, AC Milan or a top Spanish team or what have you like that. Now they say, head to Wolves, Bournemouth, Fulham, etc. Go there, do a couple of seasons there, and then you go to you can go and win trophies that's where the Premier League is now, isn't it?
I think it is. I think they got him for something like 18 million, I think, which in the overall scheme of things is just it's a snip, isn't it? As someone said, Carl there just said on the chat, he was certainly one of the best central midfielders I've seen down there this season. Absolutely outstanding player. And they're both Brazilians just complemented each other so well.
I thought like Kevin De Bruyne aside, who's an obvious one, who was excellent at Portman Road.
Oh, yeah.
I think that midfield display, like Newcastle when they came down here with Bruno, Joe Lynch and Tonali, and 2 of Brazil's other central midfielders. I think that's basically Brazil's central midfield is split across Newcastle and Wolves.
Crazy.
I think that midfield display, especially in the second half yesterday, was not quite as good as we saw against Newcastle, but was just so dominant. And that João Gomez, what a player he was. Just how good he was on the ball. He was absolutely everywhere. Just
strong.
It's one of those ones that on a different day, if you were there as a neutral, you just think, wow, what a privilege it was to watch him.
Yeah.
Here we go. Dave, how did we start the game?
Yeah, okay. So like first sort of 5 minutes, really dominant. And they barely, got out of their half, really pushing. Not really creating much, but really on the front foot. Then certainly they came back to it and probably had the best of the next. Well, spoiler alert, 10 minutes probably up until the goal. Palmer, I think that was before our goal. Gomez slipped in strand last and to the right of the box, and Palmer made a good save. He hit it first time low right foot, and he sort of made a good block down at his near post. And no, fairly, I'd say, probably fairly even, I would say. Fairly even at that stage. And then on 16 minutes, we get the goal.
Just quickly, because Dave and I didn't get to talk about it. One thing Dave and I have loved in the podcast is unnecessarily hard shots that just make you want to go, wow! And I just haven't got to talk about Liam Delap's ridiculously unnecessarily fierce shot against Portman.
We would have done it. Had it been a pod, we would have done a good 5 minutes on the velocity of that one. Although I'd say start of the second half, João Gomez had one not far behind that one that almost brought the post, almost cracked the post in two.
But Dave, I prefer it when it's unnecessary. I prever it when you could literally just stroke it in the corner and just absolutely smash it. Joe, do you want to do some more of one of the real positive things, our ever-growing series of Liam Delap, Ole. Away you go.
Yeah, really good goal. I think it's Tuanzebe has the ball at the back. So over on the left-hand side, and O'Shea you see him on the sort of edge of the box, and he's got a mismatch over there against, I presume it's against Out Nori. I didn't actually see, but he's waving his arms like mad to get the ball over to him.
Can I give, before you go on, Joe, can I just give George Burley a nod? This was very James Scowcroft being over on the right and heading across to David Johnson. Carry on, sorry.
Yeah, and so just Tuanzebe and O'Shea wins that ball so comfortably, gets up so high, puts it in the box, and Liam Delap is very, very sharp, and it's a really cute finish, just tucks it between the keeper's legs and runs off, and we have a long VAR check to see, but it didn't seem like it was even close to being offside, but a really, really good goal. And Wolves, just as a measure of the team, we've complimented them enough on their ability, but they are a really, really moany, whingy, bad sport team.
Horrible.
To the point that on this goal, there's a corner, and Cameron Burgess' boot has come off. It's sitting to the right of the goal, outside the 6-yard box. Jose Sarr, the goalie, points at the boot, like for some reason it's causing something. And when the goal goes in, he points at the boot, runs up to the referee, and remonstrates with the referee that Cameron Burgess' boot is sitting 8 yards to the side of his goal, like as on the wrong side where the ball's coming the other way, as though the goal should be disallowed because one of our players' boots has come off and they're playing on. It was just such a sort of overview of how they were through that first half, and they were like that the whole game, looking really bad. They really looked like they lost their heads at one point. That Bellegarde on the right side, committed. I think I checked at halftime. He committed 5 fouls in the first half. He just kept kicking anyone that came near him, and it reminded me of the game at Molineux where they were just totally losing their heads at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken a lot on the pod, Dave. There's been plenty of times we've criticised Ipswich for being soft over the past 10 years. Where's the line between being savvy and just being, absolute SHITs?
And it's knowing, Premier League experience, knowing how to play the ref, just knowing how to play them. Yeah, Joe's right. They're in the refs here pretty much all the first stuff. I mean, the boot thing was probably funny. You can understand if the boot was perhaps sitting inside the 6-yard box between Delap and the goalkeeper, but it was out on the edge of the penalty area. But yeah, as were their fans. I had a great view of their fans kicking off in the second half. Yeah, just a horrible team with some great players, but Joe's right. Yeah, absolutely horrible whinging lot.
There's an art to it, Dave. A pundit I worked with who'll remain nameless told me his favourite EFL referee was Barry Bannon, which was quite funny, I thought.
Yeah.
Joe, do you want to take us on from the goal? And I mean, mate, we've beaten Bournemouth. We're 1 up here against Wolves. It's the hope that kills you, Joe.
Yeah, and it's don't concede anything silly, was what I said to my dad. It's like, if they get a goal, they get a goal, but don't give them one. And we nearly had the error of all errors. And so Shea rolls the ball back to Palmer, and you look at it, and then all of a sudden he's scrabbling around to clear the ball. And it's like, what on earth's happened then? And you watch it back, and he just takes his eye off the ball and he doesn't even slow it down. It just he sort of has his boot up almost to control it and just totally misses it. And he does brilliantly to recover, in fairness to him.
Brilliant save.
But it's just...
Joe, I once went to a playoff final. It was Charlton-Sunderland. I can't remember who the keeper was. And they actually scored like that. And what I think happens is the player's receiving the back pass, and he's so busy looking at where he's going to play it, he forgets to control the ball. Like, someone in the comments tell me who the can't remember who scored. It must have been
Clyde Mendonca, Glenn.
No, this was a few years ago. Sorry, carry on, Joe. I want to talk about the denial of obvious goal scoring opportunity rule and the back pass rule at large, because actually, let me just ask you the question now, Joe. The back pass rule was brought in to stop Alan Hansen and Mark Lawrence and Bruce Grobbelaar just killing a 1-0 win for the last half an hour of a game in the 80s, wasn't it? It was brought in the early 90s. And now we have playing out from the back. The defenders are allowed in the box from the goal kicks. Surely they can update the back pass rule or just enforce the 6-second rule. Surely there's a debate to be had about that, Joe, now in my law book.
Well, I think the back pass rule works well enough as it is. It is what it is. And I think you're always denying a goal scoring opportunity for the back pass. If someone passes it back to you and you pick it up, then it's a deliberate handballing to be doing it. So,
can I ask one more question? So I know I've interrupted you about 50 times, and I do apologise, and the listeners will tell me off. But like, if someone's running back 40 yards out and they just swing their arm out away from their body, and the ball hits their hand, and that's a handball, and someone's running through, then they'll get red carded for denying it. And yet you have a goalkeeper who can miscontrol it and literally pour it out of his goal, and it's not denying it. It's a strange rule, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess the fact it still only leads to an indirect free kick as well. Makes you think that it should
be a penalty or something, shouldn't it?
It's what it is. Yeah. So I think
I'll take it in this instance with my blue tinted glasses.
I'm sorry. You can I was surprised it even got given as well. I guess it is a pass back, but I just assumed it'd just be a corner because it looked like it was going off for a corner. Like, I don't know, just seemed to get away with it. But yeah, no, it was a big error, and I say we got away with it. Brilliant desire. I don't think you had to guess it was going to be Sam Morsey who was going to get himself to the ball to block that free kick. He just sort of showed exactly what he's made of. And at that point, it really felt like, we're really up for this. We're 1-0 up. We've just stopped this like certain goal, it looked like. And the crowd was up. Everything was up. And it felt like things were going our way.
Dave, I've just solved it. For instances like that, you give an indirect penalty. Okay, so the guy has to come up and take the penalty, but he's got to do the Johan Cruyff thing, and then everyone piles in, and it's like, who's the first to get there? So he can't shoot it, or he could try and be really clever and play the penalty off the post back to himself or something like that. I've not really solved it, have I?
Not really. Johan Cruyff could have probably done that though. But,
most definitely, yeah.
Amidst all this, there was that
Ronaldinho video where he volleys it against the bar about 50 times.
There was the comedy yellow card for Palmer, who obviously who's standing in front of the wall and charges out before they've taken the kick. So always you expect that, the comedy yellow card. But Joe's right. Morsey put everything
So
on
he
the
didn't
line.
get booked for the handball?
No.
No, it's just a pass back, isn't it?
No. He charged it. They dummied the free kick, and he came charging out. The ref, no yellow. Oh, for God's sake! But yeah, Morsey put everything on the line. A brilliant block, and as Joe said, showing that desire, you think, yeah, come on, let's take this. It should give everyone a lift, and take it into the second half. But sadly not. What I would say about the first half, after that, again, yeah, probably they had more possession. I can't recall them really threatening that much.
51-49, Dave.
Yeah, for the rest of the first
Three
half.
shots to 2 on target in their favour. Yeah.
However, what I did note, so went down at half time, came back up in his seat, and you think, Christ, they're out 2 minutes before us, they were out. So you thought, okay, they've had the mother of all rollickings, well, probably had a bit of a rollicking in the changing room, and they are up for it. And right from the kickoff second half, they were on us, and on it big time.
Well, the manager had a touchline ban as well, so he wasn't
true.
He wasn't on the sideline, so that had been the first time he'd been able to speak to him. So
yeah.
I can't imagine he went in there sort of all sort of chocolate and roses. He would have gone in there absolutely flying into them.
Fooming.
And they knew what had hit them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, have you got any logical explanation for just a complete second half battering from my understanding?
I think they tweaked it. I think tactically they tweaked it, didn't they? I think someone said in the chat there, I think they pushed a bit further up and certainly pressed us much higher, and we just couldn't cope with it.
Joe?
No, we didn't. From the first second of the half, they were just into us, on top of us, and just. It's not a blame of the ref, but it felt in the first half the ref gave their antics very short shrift all the time, and then straight away from the second half, it was like he changed shirts. He was wearing an Ipswich shirt in the first half. I put a Wolves on at half time. It was a bit like that, but not in any way that really affected the game. It's because he was more in our favour in the first half. But it was just strange how stuff that had been blown up on every time, every 30 seconds, he was blown up, really winding them up, just totally flipped the other way after the break. But it was just a really, really difficult half of football, and we just could not get out. They just pressed the life out of us, and from about 55 minutes, it did feel like we were blowing really and struggling, and sort of all through the team, it just felt like we didn't have enough energy in there. Broadhead came on, and Broadhead went off, and Jack Taylor replaced him to try and get somebody slightly more down, sort of slightly more back in that midfield three. But I think what I was saying earlier about how Tuanzebe was struggling at this point, kind of Townsend was feeling his hamstring a little bit later on, and I think McKenna explained it as though we knew we needed to win the game, so he wanted to keep back sort of Connor Chaplin, George Hurst, Jack Clark as subs.
Oh, what? As in why he didn't do anything?
Why he didn't make the subs earlier? He wanted to keep those back, and the longer the game went on, the less he felt he could bring them on until it was well, I've got to try something now because we're not going to win this game otherwise, and obviously we go on to lose it.
What's your thoughts on that, Dave? Because I've seen a little bit of criticism, and without answering, about chasms in between established Premier League teams and us, and having no confidence at home, and going to Bournemouth on Wednesday as opposed to playing at home on Tuesday. What more? I mean, you can always improve something slightly. What more could have been done in that period when you're getting taken to school?
I mean, we were being overrun, certainly in midfield. And another interesting aspect of it all was Phillips was on the bench and didn't come on at all. So there's an interesting another interesting dynamic there. Poor old Sam Morsey second half was just absolutely just basically passed him by. They were so good in there. So difficult to see. You would have hoped. I mean, the goals were coming. What they scored when they scored their first one,
72.
72. Yeah, the goals were coming, but as Joe said, I think it was just hanging on. If we could see it out for another 5 minutes, then maybe make the subs. But it was just perhaps it was a bit too late yesterday. It was always coming.
Do you want to do the first goal? I was very annoyed, actually. I was listening on TalkSport, and Troy Deeney said, if Wolves score here, they'll score 2 and they'll win the game. And he was absolutely right, the fella. Talk to me about Sarabia's goal here to equalise, Joe.
Yeah, it's just, I can't remember how it happened, but it sort of broke to him on the edge of the box. And we had men back there and could just gets in, and I think he's trying to slot it out wide, sort of outside of him, and could just blocks the tackle, and it goes back to him, and he just manages to hit a hit sort of one of those shots that he just catches it really sort of not quite that sweetly, but just so directly in the corner, and it comes through Kudus' legs straight from the block. And from where I was behind the goal, the second he hit that, you knew that the millisecond he hit that, you knew that was in, because Palmer's sort of weight was on the other side. He was never going to get across there, and it's just, I'd say it's not lucky. It's a good bit of skill, but the ball just deflects back to him, and he just manages to sort of half volley it down into the ground. And I'd say, who'd have thought the sub coming on, the 27 times capped Spanish international, would be who they signed from Paris Saint-Germain, would be a sort of difference maker. But yeah, and
he's being naughty now, Dave, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones.
He's mischievous,
frustrating,
mischievous.
Whilst they were totally on top, it didn't feel like a goal was coming. It felt they were huffing and puffing quite a lot, and then it took that, and then it was just like that was just killed us really. And
to be fair, in the goal, there's a brilliant bit of play in this goal by Strand Larsen. The ball is chipped, over the top, chipped beyond sort of O'Shea. Brilliant touch. Strand Larsen in sort of mid-air sort of takes the ball down, and shows good strength to hold off O'Shea, then have the awareness to chip it back across the edge of the box to Sarabia. Yeah, it's a really good bit of play. But as Joe quite rightly said, the first shot slightly blocked, the second shot he hits early, and Palmer's unsighted. It goes through Kudus. He's got no chance. And as soon as it hits his foot, well, that's in the corner. And right in the corner, unfortunately for us.
And Dave, did you have the same feeling as Troy Deeney did that, they're about to score again now?
Yeah, afraid so. Yeah, afraid so, I think. And this is really similar to our goal. Really, really similar. I think Gomez gets possession.
Dave, really quickly, mate. Sorry, I meant to mention there's a quadruple substitution before the goal. Chaplin, Philogene, Hurst, and Davis come in.
Yeah. It's. I think Gomez, not for one, lands on the ball somewhere 30 yards out, touches, I think, to Andre, and it's really, really similar to our goal. Andre sort of pings it floats it beyond the back post. Davis gets ripped again on Match of the Day for his defending, bless him, and only just come on. And a good bit of play from Sarabia, a bit of class as the ball comes down, sort of side foot, left foot volley across the 6-yard box, and Larsen's there. It's just literally, it is a bundle it in from about a yard, really. Again, another very lengthy VAR look on that one, but didn't go our way.
Dave, you've avoided giving your opinion on Davis's defending there.
Well, look, to be fair to Davis, he had only literally this goal comes a minute after he comes on. So, he clearly does. He gets caught ball watching under the ball. I don't know, but the ball drifts off him. They said about 5 yards on Match of the Day. That's probably a bit harsh, but it's a good bit of play from Sarabia. Like I said, he opens himself up and volleys it across the 6-yard box.
He wasn't getting much help from Enciso, was he?
No, he wasn't. No.
He was just standing there watching whilst Sarabia was a spare man. Davis was actually across on the guy next to him, and it's like, maybe he needs to push up and probably needs to stay in line with his other defenders, but I don't think the marking or anything's wrong. It's just there was a spare man over, effectively.
Yeah. Was that Danny Murphy or Shearer last night? Yeah, ripped him on that one. I think Shearer. Poor old Shearer.
Hey.
Shearer!
Alan. Oh, well, and what was the sort of feeling when that one went in, Joe? It felt very symbolic, especially being we had the bloody lead in the first half and who we were playing and how this was happening and where this was happening and the time in the season. Was there any kind of epiphany when that ball hit the net, Joe?
Well, I think we all knew we needed to win. I don't think a draw was going to do us much good. So when it went from 1-1 to 2-1, it's like, 1-1 you had a chance. Because at Molineux, in fairness, when Wolves scored, it did think, well, if they score, they're going to score 2. And that was how the game went there. But it turned out that last 2 or 3 minutes, we managed to wrestle control back and get the set pieces, get the win there. But once we were 2-1 down, it's like, there's no way we are winning this game from here.
No.
Final reflections, Dave. 56-44 to Wolves on the possession, 2.71 XG to 0.80, 22 shots to 6, 7 on target to 2. It's still only you've said consistently through the season, Dave, we're in games, these players are better. But then part of me thinks we're in games, but are just better teams able to just
There was a combination of yesterday, better players, intense, as we said, shithousery, really, just managing the game, managing the ref, every aspect of that second half. They absolutely did a number and looked like a side that's been a Premier League side for, I don't know, how many seasons now? 5, is it? I don't know how many it is now. But yeah,
17, 18 they went up.
there you go. So a bit more than that. Yeah, just look the part with some very, very good players. And like I said, you'd expect them, to keep this form going. And yeah, certainly finish perhaps, well, they just beat West Ham in the week, didn't they? Finish above teams like West Ham and maybe one or two others. Yeah, look decent.
And Joe, this is the frustrating thing when and we'll go on to the broader conversation and we'll have it 20 times more between now and the start of next season. But Wolves were promoted. They lost £1 million a week they lost 52 million when they got promoted in 2018. This is before we had, before COVID, obviously, before we had, the 17, and they had, what was the lad in central midfield called? It was Ruben Neves.
Oh,
Diogo Jota, who's going to win the title with Liverpool. Willy Bolly jogging about. When you talk about Wolves establishing themselves and you make the comparison, maybe it's a bit, Wolves and horses, isn't it? Literally apples and oranges, Joe.
Yeah, and you just look at the squad and they are miles and miles ahead of us. And the fact that they were so bad at the start of the season, and there was clearly big issues in the camp, like Mario Lemina, who was the captain, stripped of the captaincy, sent out Cunha with kicking off like he did against us, and like Nori doing the same. It felt like they just didn't want to be there at all. None of the players wanted to be there. They all hated it. And now a new manager's come in and has just ripped it up and totally turned it around. But he could turn it around because there was a squad there to turn it around with. And like I say, you look the way they played in the second half. We had 2 shots in the second half. One was a header from a flicked on throw-in by Darragh O'Shea, which probably went 10 yards wide and 10 yards high. And the other one was in the 89th minute. Jadon Philogene had a block shot from a long throw-in. So in the whole second half, we didn't create anything.
They thought we had 0 by the look of it.
Honestly, I can remember.
We chucked 2 crosses into the box, 2 throws into the box, and had 2 not even quarter chances from it, and that's all we created in the second half. And like I say, you just can't close the gap that we've got in 1 or 2 windows. It was quite interesting listening to Mick Mills on Radio Suffolk after the game. He was talking about how he's been chatting with Brian Talbot, who is sort of head of recruitment of Fulham, and he was saying that Fulham feel they're like 18 months behind Brighton, and you've got to get into South America. That is where all the talent is. And let's say you look at the game yesterday, and there was a huge amount of talent from there. And he said they're about 18 months behind Brighton. Well, we're probably 3 years behind Fulham.
And did they do that in year 1 in the Premier League, Joe? Or is that something you can do? These teams being able to go to South America. Did they do that year 1 as a Premier League team, or did they have to? Like Fulham and Brighton, who you're talking about.
I guess they've done a little bit of it because they're not year 1 teams, are they? Because they've probably had 5 of the last 7 years in the Premier League at Fulham, and Wolves have had 8 years in a row, 7, 8 years in a row, sort of on the bounce. So I don't know exactly how the timeline works, but
forget Brighton had Gyökeres as well, Joe.
Yeah, gave him away. We just so far behind where we need to be, sort of scouting wise. But I can guarantee we're in a much better position than we are on April 6th, 2025 than we are on April 6th, 2024. So everything the club's done this year has moved us forward, and it's just maybe the pace of it and it's not been enough for some fans, but I'm sure we've been going as fast as we can, and you've got to be going in every direction. We've got a new training ground coming. We've had all the improvements at the ground. We've got the new pitch. We've got a fantastic squad. It's just not a Premier League squad yet. I think the problem is when we were in League One, we built a squad to help in the Championship. And now we're in the Premier League, we've probably built a squod to be
Someone
a top
put that in the Telegram
squad
earlier. That was a great comment, wasn't it? I agree with that totally. Yeah.
And I thought the top end we could get this year was maybe like 34, 35 points. And with a headwind, you could get lucky with that. But we're probably 6 or 7 points worse than what we maybe should have been, should have been. But I think even with that, the levels, we're still going to be miles off it. We're still miles behind 17th. So in a way, it's quite, not positive, but it's we're not going to go down with regrets that, if we'd have just done this, we'd have just done that, would have been okay. We're so far off it, despite doing everything we possibly could. We're still
Top
so
of our
far
little
off
league,
it.
Joe.
Yeah, we're still so far off it. And I think when you look at Leicester and Southampton, it feels like we're a long way ahead of them. We've not as far as maybe the league table suggests, but I don't think anyone could have done anything more. And I think it's easy to look back at the recruitment and people saying, we needed to go abroad and recruit more from there. But I didn't see anyone moaning about that in January 2023 when we went to sign Nathan Broadhead and Harry Clark and I can't even remember who else, Massimo Luongo in that window. Or last year when we brought in Kiefer Moore and Jeremy Sarmiento, people weren't saying, we should be going abroad then. What we were doing was working then, and it worked brilliantly for 2 seasons. And this year is just a down season, but the club is in a brilliant place. But we just need to make sure that when we go down, because it is when now, not if, that we are able to react quickly in the summer and build a squad capable of winning the championship and to come straight back up.
Dave, help me out. I always think it's good to do a little kind of self-awareness check in life, because I talk to a lot of football fans, Dave, from different clubs, not just Ipswich, and sometimes they're talking and I'm like, you're just telling yourself that to make yourself feel better. So help me out, because some people, we sit here and we tell ourselves, well, it's not really our fault, is it? We're in a bench system with loads of chasms, and Joe's just even said it himself. Don't really know much more what you could have done. I've said it myself. Please tell me we're not telling ourselves that as a coping mechanism, Dave. Are we? Give me a self-awareness check here.
No, we're not. It's just got, the Premier League has just got further and further away. And I saw a brilliant stat, I think, on the BBC website earlier this evening that collectively, Southampton, Leicester and ourselves need to accrue 19 points collectively between now and the end of the season to avoid being the worst ever Premier League bottom 3. And that probably speaks for itself.
Not the worst ever 3 promoted teams, the worst ever bottom 3
period. The worst
period.
ever bottom 3 period.
God.
The worst ever bottom 3 period. That's how I read it. I think that's right. And that basically, it just basically speaks for itself. It's a gulf. And I think, as Joe said, I think we did everything that we perhaps could have done, really. What could you have done? Unlucky with injuries, pretty unlucky with injuries. And I know we've mentioned it on here before. For instance, the Calvin Phillips, the Calvin Phillips loan, brilliant at the time. You think, but we needed him to be.
Oh,
100%.
so excited, Dave.
Yeah, we needed him to be absolutely 100%. Planning games like that yesterday and being equally as good, perhaps, as João Gomez and Andre, but sadly for one reason or another that just hasn't happened. That's just one thing. And injuries to our right side, the pace on the right side we've missed. So
doesn't need many of those to compound, Dave, does it? And
absolutely
then
doesn't need
off,
much.
Yeah.
And so much has gone against us. We haven't had, maybe, jokingly about, we said it, perhaps we used up, and I don't really believe that, we used up all our luck last season, but we haven't had much go for us this season. We really haven't. So, it's just been backs to the wall, really.
Anyway, I've gone nearly 40 minutes on the game there. Get your comments in, keep them coming on Ipswich 1, Wolves 2. We're going to move on, and we're probably going to extend this conversation slightly by way of talking about the latest load of Premier League results and the relegation of Southampton. But first, a quick word from our sponsors.
Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com.
Thank you so much to the wonderful people at Atwells and at One Stop Badges as well. You can get yourself 10% off at One Stop. Point down there, Dave, do the in the hot seat thing like that. There you go. And if you find a pod team member pre-match, it's like at the Suffolk show where you have to find a policeman and an ambulance and a fireman and whatnot. You get a free Blue Monday badge. This is a rarity, isn't it? ITFC women defeated 1-0 away at Watford Town's final game in hand on second place. Hashtag Town have a 3-point cushion and, get this, a plus 27 goal difference cushion going into the final 2 games. Next week, they faced MK Dons away, who have 1 point from their 20 games so far this season. So I think I know what Richard's intimating with those bits and bobs. Dave, is there rewind for Chelsea coming up?
There is indeed. Yeah,
Oh,
I did
lovely.
a rewind earlier this morning with Craig. Crikey, it's not until you look back. No spoilers. Not until you look back that our record at Stamford Bridge, people probably know this, is pretty wretched. So yeah, we've got that coming out on Tuesday.
Brilliant stuff. Pre-match on Thursday, and we will be back. We're going to do it all over again, Joe and Dave, on Sunday for the Flagship Show. Right, let's do our Premier League roundup. I nearly got caught dancing then. That was good, wasn't it? Right. This is in association with Innovation Labs. Thank you very, very much. The guys over at Innovation for their continued support. Everton won, Arsenal won, which plays into Joe's theory that there is no 17th place, just a bunch of teams all pulling up the drawbridge on us. Palace 2, Brighton 1, West Ham 2, Bournemouth 2. It's a good week for your storyline, this, Joe, isn't it? All these results. Villa 2, Forest 1, Brentford 0, Chelsea 0. Fulham 3, Liverpool 2. They haven't lost for about 100 years, have they, Liverpool? But the important one today is Spurs 3, Southampton 1, which means Saints are still 1 point short of Derby's poorest.
2,
Is it 2? No, I think it's 11 to tie, 12 to beat it. Is that right? Someone give me the comments on that. And yeah, Man United 0, Man City 0, whatever. Dave, Southampton were great rivals with us last season, and we had obviously that amazing game and had some good players and were
very good players.
Well, they get like 80, 89 or something in the 87, 89. Someone correct me in the
something like that. Very,
comments.
very good players. Did a number on Leeds comfortably in the playoffs. Didn't I? Absolute number.
I was there. Yeah.
Signed. Absolute.
But they're down.
But they're down. Yeah, Ramsdale got in. You think flipping neck? What a signing! What a signing that is. Don't think he'll be around there. But yeah, absolutely down. We've got seven games to go. Just hasn't happened. Unfortunately, 4 of those points came against us. But we'll gloss over that.
Oh God! So 40% of their points were against us.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Joe, Southampton relegated.
Yeah, and I guess it's been coming a long time. They'd looked a long way off it from the start. But I think, again, they're saying they're the earliest team that's ever been relegated. But again, that's because 17th have got 32 points after 31 games, isn't it? That's the difference this year compared to any other year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, no points deductions this year. No basket cases this year.
And when you talk, just obviously on your championship hat on, Ben, Sheffield United are top of the league now.
Burnley went top yesterday.
They've had a 2-point deduction, and all these people talk about are we going to be good enough when we drop down? I'm not saying we're going to walk the league, but last year Sheffield United, who up until this point had the 3rd most points in Championship history at this stage of the season, behind the Reading team that got 106 points and less than last season. Last year they lost 8-0, 6-0.
Oh, they were getting mullered.
5-0 4 times, 5-1, 4-0, letting over 100 goals, and they are the Championship pace setters up until yesterday, effectively. So, whilst we're not going to go down, the gap has got so big in these parachute teams at the top of the Championship. So we've got such a big advantage when we go down next season. And
one would hope so.
And with that will come massive expectations. So that it's not. We've got to, like, anything but promotion next season is a failure.
Oh, Joe, the Leeds fans, they're 1 point off, or they have to score 1 point more than Sheffield United over the last 6 games, and Sheffield United play away at Burnley. And they're saying, right, just change the manager now. So that is the level of experience. Can I just say, do this, Blue Monday listeners, please, if as an experiment, have a look at the League 2 table, and you'll see a division that isn't financially doped, where the top team isn't going to get 100 points
Walsall
okay,
were the top team. They've lost like 5 of the last 8.
exactly. There's actually some jeopardy at the top of the table. It goes, and they're well below. Bradford are well below 2 points per game at the top. But love your Birmingham, love your Wrexham, but there's money behind there. There's money behind Stockport at the top of League One. Some would argue ourselves and Sheffield Wednesday had way more money. So League One gets a bit of it. And then the Championships got chasms, as Joe's just spoken about. The Premier League's even more ridiculous. Just have a look at the League Two table and look what an actual real competitive football table without stupid chasms actually looks like. There you go. So it's my soapbox for the day. Guys, have you got questions? I'm sure you have, for David Diamond and Joe Fairs. Please indeed get them into the comments right now. It helps me out and Richard, who's on moderation duties here. Helps us out greatly if you can stick a Q before and a question mark afterwards. Right, what do we got here? Martin, who shall I ask first? David. What do we feel our points total will be? I'm confident we'll be NCs. What's that? NCs? I don't know. Oh, is that Norwich Cities? Okay. Why have you brought that up, Martin? 21 and 22 points in 2020 and 2022. Just put a tongue twister in there just to kill me there, hasn't he? Maybe get to 28. Can we reach 30? It's a fair question. Are you bothered, Dave?
Well, it'd be nice to finish as strongly as possible, but that would mean getting more than a point. 28 even would be getting more than a point a game for our last remaining games. And there's some, how can I put it, tricky games in there. All right, perhaps 1 or 2 teams, sorry, might be on the beach, as it were. But just look at the next 3 games coming up. What is it? Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, Newcastle away. I believe these next 3 games. Yeah, you're going to push to get some points out of that. So I think we all looked at one point at our last month of the season, which perhaps on paper looks to be as straightforward. Perhaps is it? Okay, there's no Southampton in there, but as straightforward as it could be. So yeah, that's still going to be a stretch, I think, to get a point a game for the remaining games.
And Joe, can I just piggyback off what Dave said there? What a bloody clown show if relegation's all done with 3 games to go. And you talk about the entire bottom 12 is going to be a beach for the last 3 games. And I know we're charging 5 billion quid TV money or whatever, but in my big rants, this is not good for the league. The title's gone as well. It's going to be just a completely inconsequential last 4 games for the, quote, world's greatest football league, Joe.
Yeah, I think the Premier League must be hoping that Liverpool tie the title up quite quickly so that they can then begin to focus on the Champions League race, because that's all that's really there, isn't it? And that is quite an interesting race now because the top 5 are going into it seems, because of the coefficients. So you've got like Nottingham, but really we've taken Nottingham Forest out of that top 5 and it's a boring league. But I guess you've got like Forest, Villa, City, Fulham, only 2 points off it now after their win today. So hopefully you might get something interesting on that side of things.
Joe, Michael, will we need... I love it when people ask a question which is really kind of just their opinion. So I think Michael thinks we need 3 new midfielders next season, but he asks, will we need a minimum of 3 new midfielders next season, Joe?
Well, yes, yeah. Well, Phillips and I think we all assume will be going back to their parent clubs and maybe going elsewhere, but not Ipswich Town. So those 2 need replacing. Massimo Luongo is one of our 5. He's going to need replacing, potentially Sam Morsey. There's talk that he might be off somewhere. We don't know on that. Jack Taylor. I like Jack Taylor, but he's only started probably 5 league games in 2 seasons for us. So there's really no one in that midfield who you think, if we have 2, if you look at what we've got here currently, forget the 2 loanies. I think 2 of those are going to be starting for us on September the 2nd. Something has gone badly wrong if that is the case. If we're starting Sam Morsey and Jack Taylor, for example, or Massimo Luongo or whoever. So yeah, we would need at least 2, and I'd imagine that's where the bulk of our recruitment, the bulk of our summer spending is going to be going. I'd imagine we're going to spend 20 odd million quid on 2 central midfielders.
David, Colin, do you agree with me that Chaplin could be a crucial player for next season, lads? Can I add to that, Dave? As much as I love Connor Chaplin, Joe just said 10 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago, make the comparison from a year ago. Connor Chaplin was in with us in League One, wasn't he? You almost wiping the slate clean. And as much as these lads are good players, you're probably leveling up on a lot of them with parachute payments as well.
Yeah, you don't want to be dependent. You don't want to be dependent on. It wouldn't be fair to be dependent on someone like Connor Chaplin. And he's missed a lot of this season with injury as well. I mean, obviously, I know you've got the close season to come. I'm sure if he'll still be about, and obviously a very, very good club man, very well respected, and I'm sure he'll still be about, around the first team squad. But again, you wouldn't like to think you go into that first match in the Championship next season with Connor Chaplin as you starting in the 10 or whatever.
Chris, Joe, if Man City get a 40-point deduction, they'd be down to 12. Could we hold them off, mate? They would be fierce if they had to make it. So if they made it so, do you know what? That's what they could do to make the league interesting. They make it so Man City have to win all their games to survive, which they obviously would, wouldn't they, Joe? But
so it's 8 points. They'd have to get 8 points more than us over 7 games. Well, you'd back them. Say we get at the moment, I guess you'd back them. But our last 4 games, there's definitely something in there for it. And you wonder whether, if you're West Ham on the last day of the season and it's a case of relegate Man City or relegate Ipswich, which one are you going to elect to do? I think you'd rather put Man City out of the league for a season, wouldn't you? And maybe step aside. And I think there'd probably be a couple of teams, maybe their motivation might be, like I say, if you're West Ham, if you're Fulham, if you're a team, well, actually not Fulham because they're up there, but if you're a team in sort of between 12th and 17th, I think you'd rather Ipswich Town be in the league than Man City be in the league next season, wouldn't you? Because it's just one team you're almost definitely going to finish above versus one team you are definitely going to finish behind.
Not going to happen, is it?
I'll take this one, Paul. With next season in mind, would we rather Leeds go up this season? I think as a general rule, do you want parachute teams against you or not? You want as few as possible. And Leeds would be going into the last year. And I think we've all seen, and I said in our Telegram group, how our promotion last year will be seen as one of the most extraordinary EFL performances when, what was our wage bill has come out as like?
I think it was 28 versus 84 for Leeds. 28
million versus 84 million. So it shows what an extraordinary job we did. But to Joe's point as well, that's the ridiculous world we live in, where 2 teams in the same division, 1 place apart, one's wage bill is 81 or 84 or whatever it is, and one's 28 or I can't think what. Put it this way, there's a bloody chasm between the 2 of them. But anyway, that wasn't the question. My answer is, you just want, you'd rather that they got promoted and...
you just sort of wonder how... So you obviously had to sell Rutter and Archie Gray last summer, and they're going into the 3rd year parachute payments, which isn't a huge amount. You'd imagine that they're probably going to need to sell a couple more this summer to...
Oh, and slash the wage bill,
the wage bill. So I wonder whether they almost wouldn't be a championship parachute team in the league, would they? I don't know.
But Joe,
they're a big team. They're a big team with big revenue ultimately as well, aren't they? So,
but Joe, even a year 3 parachute team has a big advantage over everybody else, and this is what people forget, and fans of parachute teams forget. They go, "Oh, well, compare us to the Premier League teams. I don't know all these bills we've got to pay." And I'm like, yeah, what about the 20 teams that don't have parachute payments? And still got a massive advantage. I remember a Southampton fan saying to me, "Oh, well, you see, parachute payments, they don't really do anything. All they managed to do is allowed us to keep all our Premier League players and pay their wages." And I'm like, yeah, go figure. So you got Premier League players against Championship players for 46 games. I'm yelling, Dave. I need to ask you a question.
Who would just a quick question from me? Who would Leeds sell at decent money then? Who would fetch? James?
Dan James, yeah.
Ampadu.
Ethan Ampadu.
Yeah,
Ampadu, yeah.
James.
Yeah. Forgot about Ampadu, of course, yeah.
But Firpo could go, because he Dominican, isn't he? He could go to Europe somewhere. But no, I mean, if your question's the leading question, the big multi-deca million players they're long gone, aren't they? Dave from Simon. Would you play players who won't be with us for the last handful of games? We need to bump that Liam Delap fee up, don't we?
We certainly do. You get him to 15 goals. I mean, what a season that would be. 15 goals from your
How many's he got?
2012.
12.
So 15 league goals from your
21,
22-year-old striker. That's going to put Man City thing aside, let's not go there. That's going to put a bump of fee on his head. Look, I think you just got to try and play your strongest side, and like we said, just try and get some results between now the end of the season. I know we used to be back in the day, you need a good end of season, to sell season tickets. Well, that's not an issue now, is it? Because I think we'll still be very, very well supported in the Championship, and I'm pretty sure sold out most weeks, but our tickets, in the Championship anyway. But you need to field your strongest side and try and pick up some results.
Very much so. Joe, Carl asks, Delap aside, Kayus has been our best player this season. Is it time we shop abroad more? And if I can, if you think of really dominant players in the Championship recently, Joe, Emi Buendia, Gus Harmer, there have been Enzo. Have you seen Enzo Lefebvre play for Sunderland? He's only on loan, but he's bloody brilliant. I just come back from injury as well. Even I suppose Jorginho Ruta came in the Premier League as well. But I think it's a fair question from Carl, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah, and there's been a lot of comments about it over the last few weeks, and I just don't think we were ready to do these sort of deals last summer. A lot of the
even next season, Joe.
Yeah, but I think we should be ready for it now. That we should have spent some time. I know we went in for that Greek guy, didn't we? That Fotis Ioannidis. We pushed quite hard for him, but the problem is a lot of deals. They get done over sort of like 2 or 3 windows. You see, like Jack Taylor to us, even Jaden Philogene, George Hurst, I think Dane Scarlett. I know I'm not saying he worked out. Liam Delap, we tried to sign him the year before, and Murray Hudson, we tried to sign the year before. These deals are long, ongoing things, and the fact we just weren't. I'm not saying the Premier League promotion took us by surprise, but we were sort of dropped into a market where we just had very, very little experience at recruitment at that level. So we went with what we knew and probably what we'd been working on up until that point of the season. So you'd hope that we're in a better position to be able to cast a net a bit further afield this time. We know what we're looking for a little bit more. So I don't think it's. I don't think it isn't going to happen. I'd imagine it will happen, but we do like recruiting from where we have. We do like looking at the sort of top Championship players, and I think that has worked to an extent. But as we've said before, Crescencio Somerville was the best player in the league. He goes to West Ham and he plays a few substitute appearances, a few starts here and there. He works himself into the team. Jared Bowen did it when he went to West Ham. Keane Lewis Potter did it when he went to Brentford. But we haven't had the chance for Jacob Greaves to come in and play a few games, take him out of the team, put him back in the team, have a few games here and there. It just hasn't worked out in that way for us, for Jack Clark, for Jaden Philogene now, for Jacob Greaves, for sort of Ben Johnson even coming from that league. So these people have been stuck in. These people have been stuck in
57
in the
minutes,
team without anyone there. So we're having to sort of play people at a level they're maybe not quite ready for yet, and just persist with them when ideally we take them out of the team. But that won't be the case. Sort of next time we come up, if we come up when we should do.
Right, last one for you, Dave from LJ. Does Philogene and Clark both stay? Before you answer that, Dave, I've just taken the liberty to bring up the Burnley squad. They're currently top of the Championship. Just to read out their options in kind of forward attacking midfield positions, which goes something like Josh Brownhill, Aaron Ramsey, Nathan Redmond, Manuel Benson, Marcus Edwards, Zian Fleming, Jaden Anthony, Lyle Foster, Luca Cogliosho, Jeremy Sarmiento, if you mention him. So it is not beyond the realms of possibility that a parachute team in the Championship can have multiple players in their forward positions to dominate from the start or the bench. But would you like to answer the question after I've filled your head with?
I can't remember what it was. Philogene and Clark.
Sorry,
Philogene
and Clark. A plan to have them both around.
Philogene's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Philogene, obviously we really chased him. Finally got him in January, for 20 million. I mean, you would think there'd be some sort of
he's getting 10 goals, 10 assists minimum.
Next season? Yeah. You would think it'd be good enough. And the same with Jack Clark. I just don't see them. I don't see Jack Clark going there. We honestly, on the face of it, look, we're going to lose the lap. Chances are, you would think that someone would surely come in and have a go for Hutchison. You would think. Possibly O'Shea, do we think perhaps? I think he's done really well. But other than, but if they don't, say you hang on to Hutchison and O'Shea, and with those players, Delap goes, Davis, who knows? I don't know. Oh my God, you have got a.
This is the thing, Dave. If you balance the books, it's not a problem not selling them, is it?
It really isn't. And I mean, looking at that, Ben. I mean, can you think of a more? I mean, with another centre forward in, obviously that we're perhaps alongside, not say alongside us, with Hurst to replace effectively Delap. I mean, can you think of a more offensive championship? Not really. My God, it's like the Harlem Globetrotters. Yeah. So sorry, forgot about Sam Smodics, for God's sake. So
top scorer from last season.
Yeah, potent. So you would think everything would be in place. However, as you iterated sort of at the early part of the pod, nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed, is it? Not really.
Well, no, just to finish that kind of statement, Dave, I mentioned Emi Buendia. He wanted to go when Norwich came back down. They said, no, you're not, you're staying. He threw his toys out of the pram and he said, all right, then I'll play a season. He virtually got 20 goals, 20 assists and just strolled through with a cigar on and fired Norwich to promotion again on his own. So it's not a problem if you do balance the books by selling ironically a Ben Godfrey, then you're all right.
And you just I know he's sorry, you just saw it. I know it was only one-off game, the cup game at Coventry. We're in a brilliant run. Right, they've gone off the ball perhaps since then. We're in a brilliant one, and basically our reserve team took them apart, didn't they? Really?
11 changes. We beat them 4-1.
Yeah,
mental.
I mean.
And like I said, we spoke about this on the pod last week when sort of the accounts had come out and looking at the squad. But really, when you look at the accounts, we're going to have no pressure to sell anyone. And that includes Liam Delap. There's going to be no pressure to sell anyone. There might be some clauses in there that players have. Liam Delap might have a relegation clause. Jaden Philogene might have one. Amari Hudson might have. We don't know all this stuff. But actual pressure to sell, if people want Darrow O'Shea, if they want Amari Hudson, if they want Liam Delap, and there isn't a clause in their favour, they're going to have to show us the money, and they're going to have to offer big money over the top of what some people might think they're worth. But that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
There we go. What a lovely way to finish. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for Blue Monday and Ipswich Town podcast. Please hit the thumbs up before you go. I've run over, so I'm going to say goodbye on behalf of David Diamond and Joe Fairs. We will be back with Rewind when the crowd say Bo Selector on Tuesday. Richard said we'll be back with preview on Thursday. And you can see these two wonderful gentlemen and me as well if you want next Sunday. Thank you, everybody, for joining on a symbolic weekend where it was Ipswich Town 1, Wolverhampton Wanderers 2. See you, Premier League.